Hello and good evening. I am going to wait a couple of seconds for a few people to come on. So welcome to the day 4 of Mental Health Awareness Week. And today I'm going to be tackling the topic of depression. I'm just going to allow you a couple of seconds a couple of minutes until a few people come on, just to enjoy the music that's playing, and I'll have a drink of water. Okay, so those of you that have been following me for a while or following me just this week, it is Mental Health Awareness Week in the UK. I'm Lise and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist as well as an author. I write lots of blogs around mental health and wellbeing topics. And I offer a range of services from one-to-one hypnotherapy to group therapy. And I also do corporate wellbeing training for managers as well. So there's lots and lots of things that I offer. If you are interested, please contact me via the Hypno Healing page, or just drop me a comment or an email on kingybell@me.com. So this evening I'm going to talk about depression. Depression and hypnotherapy work together. They work well together. However, before we work with any sort of client that is showing symptoms of depression, we need to have a full case history taken. And if they are under any sort of other therapeutic service, or they're under their GP supervision, then we need to have a full GP report. Depression obviously is really serious, and there's lots and lots of information and research out there about depression. There's lots and lots of different classifications, but just for ease, what I'm going to do is just break it down into 2 really simple classifications. So for simplicity purposes, if we say that there are 2, the first one is what we call endogenous, and that's clinical depression. Clinical depression is usually a biological imbalance arising from internal factors. So it can be a chemical imbalance, a hormonal imbalance, and more often than not is usually treated by GP. And people who have clinical depression will usually manage it via medication. We can work alongside people that are on medication, but as I said previously, we do need GP's consent. There's lots and lots of research out there to ask the questions as to whether or not clinical depression is genetic. Now, the research is extensive, but there's no conclusive evidence out there yet that says that it is entirely genetic. It's certainly, you do see patterns of things like suicide in families. You do see patterns of clinical depression in family history. So that's the first topic. The other one I want to talk about is reactive non-clinical depression. So that's usually caused by external stressors, such as exposure to prolonged stress and anxiety, could be as a result of bereavement. And it's when that sort of stress level tips over into depression. And depression is low mood, it's about helplessness. So what I want to do over the course of the next half an hour to 45 minutes is talk about some of the symptoms of depression, some of the things that you might see. Talk about some of the things that people will struggle with when they're going through depressive episodes. I also am going to read from my own personal blog and talk about my own personal experience, as I've written a blog on this subject. And I am going to run a hypno session around low mood. I'm not going to call it depression. Obviously, low mood, everybody struggles with low mood from time to time. So the therapeutic technique I'm going to use today will be useful for anybody. So, to start with symptoms of depression. So you get biological symptoms of depression and things like sleep disturbances. We talked on Monday about sleep. When you can't sleep for whatever reason, it does have a massive impact on your mood. Loss of appetite. People, when they're depressed, can lose appetite, but it can also manifest in increased appetite as well. Fatigue. When people are depressed, they feel constantly tired, constantly, like everything is an absolute struggle, from brushing teeth to getting out of bed to getting outside. Even really simple day-to-day tasks can be difficult. Loss of libido is one. Constipation. You know, it can physically manifest itself in constipation, and unexplained aches and pains. On an emotional level, it's that helplessness. It can be anger and resentment, irritability, shame and guilt. And then you have things like apathy. When you're feeling depressed, you just don't want to do anything. Things that you once found enjoyable are no longer enjoyable. Lack of interest in things, and things just seem pointless and hopeless. Impaired ability to concentrate and impaired memory. Your memory goes when you're depressed. And feelings of inferiority and worthiness. You know, feeling defeated or trapped by a particular situation. And just a negative view of the present, negative view of the future, and a negative view of the past. So there's just, you're trapped in this no hope situation where there's just a helplessness. You know, they don't want to go out. People with depression don't want to go out. They withdraw socially. They become agitated, and problems with social relationships. One of the things that you do see is that, and you'll see this when I talk through my own blog, that dress and grooming become neglected. So you can see people who are normally, fully made up, look after themselves. When they're depressed, they stop doing that because it's too much effort. It's not that they don't want to do it. It's just that something as simple, particularly in my situation, as putting on my lipstick was just too much effort. You can characterise someone who's feeling depressed by their sloping shoulders, their head bent, and reduced sort of blinking. So there's a stare. And I remember when I had a really bad bout of depression, probably a couple of years ago. I was at a wedding do, and I don't remember it. All I remember is just staring into space. I felt helpless. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I felt that there was no point. Those that are around people with depression, it's really difficult to know what to do, because the depressed person feels helpless, but you also feel helpless. What I will say from a personal point of view is the best thing you can do is just say that you're there. Or if you are physically there, just sit. Just sit and do nothing. Just sit with them. If you have a friend or a relative or just someone you love who's suffering with depression, often they don't want to talk. Often they don't want to do anything. But if they know you're there, either physically, because you sat next to them on a sofa, or you sat on the edge of the bed just in silence, or you've sent them a message saying, look, I'm here. Sometimes that's good. That's good enough. Hi, Nicola. Hi, Emma. Yeah, I'm just talking about depression and just talking about some of the symptoms, some of the things that you see. I've also talked about clinical depression and non-clinical depression. More often than not, we tend to get people with non-clinical depression, so things that are influenced by external stressors rather than hormonal imbalance or biological imbalance in hypnotherapy. But we do need to have GP consent. I would never ever work with someone without GP consent when they're suffering from depression. I won't work with anyone that has suicidal thoughts. And if I'm really honest, people won't go to a hypnotherapist or even a counsellor if they've got suicidal thoughts. At the most they'll do is pick up a telephone line and just say, I don't feel right, I don't know what to do. From a friend point of view, and I know Nicola's listening and she's been there for me, so I'm getting a bit emotional thinking about this, when she's just been there the other end of the phone, and I know my dad's gone, I don't know what to do. I didn't need them to do anything, I just needed to know they were there. So what I'm going to do for a couple of minutes is just read through my own blog, which talks a little bit about my own personal experience. So the blog I wrote back in February this year, although I could have written it at any point in the last 5 years. And I called it Riding the Storm of the Black Hour. And it goes something like this. Churchill called his depression the black dog. Depression is very real and very debilitating when it comes. And when it does come, it takes no prisoners. I can't help thinking that Churchill's champagne quaffing did little to ease his misery. Alcohol and depression are not good bedfellows. At times, it creeps up like a cat burglar in the middle of the night. 2 a.m. to be precise, in my own personal situation. There is not usually an imminent reason or a purpose behind it, and everyone experiences it differently. At other times it hits like a juggernaut, flooring you and zapping the energy out of you, rendering you to sleep for entire days in a pool of your own filth and perspiration. I can pinpoint mine. I can even see it coming over the horizon like a looming grey, dark cloud, getting ever increasingly darker. In the days and weeks leading up to my depression, my body fills with a buzz, and I appear to have more energy than any woman in their 40s should have. I'm invincible, and I can carry out several tasks quickly and with little effort. I can achieve amazing things, and this is my creative time. But then it comes. I used to be a happy-go-lucky person, so I know that mine is not clinical depression, but circumstantial. Mine is a result of prolonged anxiety and extreme stress, coupled with not doing some of the things that fill my soul. A lack of creativity and spending too long in suburban life doesn't ward off my depressive state. In fact, I can name 2 occasions in the past year when my body and soul were truly laughing, and the other times were pretend, put on, faked for the camera. Have you ever wished whole months away, times when nothing was fulfilling you, times when you prayed there was something else, times when you considered what the alternative is to this soulless, inert state? I do. The latest incident left me sleeping for hours and not bathing for days, losing interest in anything. And when it comes along, I just ride the storm of the black hour and pray that I survive. It's important to remember that depression, along with severe and chronic mental illness, such as bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, also affect a person's physical health. Depression is more than just feeling sad or having negative thoughts. It's a condition where the chemicals in the brain are imbalanced. Hypnotherapy is an integrative therapy and should only be used in conjunction with other therapies in order to help with depression. Okay, so that's my own personal account, and there's a little bit of a caveat at the end around when hypnotherapy is useful and and how you use it when you're treating someone with depression. It's really lovely that sort of Nicola and Andy have just hopped online, because those pair have both helped me in the last few years. And in that blog, I talked about, having a couple of times in the last few years where I felt truly happy. And one of those was with Andy last year at a festival. It was probably the only day in that year that I felt really happy. And we had such a good time. A lot of other times I was just masking it and putting it on. And that's the thing to remember with people with depression. They might be smiling, they might appear to be happy, but what's going on inside is not necessarily what's going on the inside is not how they're portraying on the outside. So it's really important to remember that. If you are supporting someone with depression, as I say, the worst thing you can do is say, oh, be happy, or just get yourself out of here, or just do this. It's probably one of the worst things that you can do, or just stop being sad. You can't stop being sad. It's a feeling that's inside. So when we're working in a hypnotherapy context, one of the things that we don't do, so a lot, if you've been on my site before, you'll see that I do a lot of scripts that involve down and going down and deeper down. We don't use those scripts when we're dealing with someone with depression. Everything has to be done in a very staged way over a long period of time. So the other thing that we don't do is we don't big up the ego and say, oh, you're wonderful and you're fantastic and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, because that's not useful for someone in depression. If someone comes to me and their goal is just being able to brush their teeth and have a bath that week, then I'll put that in the script. You know, today I want to be able to brush my teeth and have a bath, or today I want to be able to smile. And whether that smile's fake or not, we just get them to think about smiling. Is there any way or anything to look out for when someone appears okay but isn't on the outside? I'd spot language patterns. So because Nicola's my best friend and she's been there when I've not been great. Some of the things you'll hear is, I don't enjoy that anymore. And I remember I used to do loads of theatre work and I stopped enjoying it. And when people say, I don't want to do that anymore, and you know it's something that they really had a passion for, that could be a signal. Just spot language patterns. Sometimes people that are depressed look dead behind the eyes, absolutely dead behind the eyes. Hi, Barbara. Hello. You all right? Are we still doing our call tomorrow, Babs? Send me a message later. Yeah, so dead behind the eyes, not enjoying things that they once enjoyed. A personality change. I mean, in me, it's really obvious when I'm not feeling great. You see it. It's really funny that Andy, Barbara and Nicola have all seen me in this state in the last few years. And you've all been real massive support as well. Anything else? Drinking as well, so drinking a lot. That was one thing I did. And people who are prone to sort of taking drugs, if they're overdoing things, it's usually because they're trying to mask something or they're trying to change something within themselves. So therapeutic techniques, we don't do anything that's inward looking. When someone's depressed, I won't tell them to do self-hypnosis. So I don't recommend self-hypnosis. You need to see a hypnotherapist. But again, I can't stress enough how important GP consent is. I would write to a GP. If people are telling you they have suicidal thoughts, then you need to be referring them on to people like the Samaritans, also their doctor. If they're under some sort of psychotherapist or psychiatrist, again, getting them to go to them and speak to them. But as I say, you know, If you've got someone who you live with who's suffering depression, just sit next to them on the sofa, sit in silence, and just hold their hand and let them know you're there. Because that sometimes is more than enough. For some people it won't be. You know, everyone's different, but just go easy on them and work with them. And even if they're the most happiest person in the world, don't say, oh, come on, let's go out, let's cheer you up, because that won't work. Any other questions about depression? One of the things I won't do is I won't tell people to give up medication. Now, I started having hypnotherapy myself because medication was no good for me. It dulled my personality. I didn't like it. But I would never advocate someone giving up medication if that works for them and that's what they've been prescribed and that's what they're on. So I'm not against it. I'm just saying that it didn't work for me. People looking dishevelled as well. That's another usual sign of somebody that is struggling. So, I know I'm talking a lot tonight, but it is a really big subject and it's a really important one, and the actual therapy I'm going to do is only for low mood and it's going to be a short session tonight. Case history. So what I look for in case history when I take it is I ask them about what's happening to them, how it's affecting their life, how are they sleeping, if they're taking any sort of medication, and how that medication affects them. I'll ask about what makes the depression worse, what makes it better, what's happening in their life right now, and then before this happened, what did they enjoy doing? What do they enjoy doing now? And how is it affecting things like friendships and relationships? One of the techniques that I haven't talked about that we use, and it's a really simple one and loads of therapists use it, is scaling. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the worst you've ever been? What's the best you've ever been? And we use scaling loads just to get an idea of just how bad it is or how much better they're feeling. So if they've got 5 sessions and session 1 is like 10 is the best and 1's the worst, so I'm at a 1 today, but by the time they finish the treatment they're an 8. That's great. People who suffer from depression will have relapses, so it's not a case of, all right, you're going to have a course of hypnotherapy or you're going to have a course of counselling, brilliant, you're going to be recovered and great. There aren't any miracle cures. And sometimes it's a bit of a maintenance job. So if people feel that they're going to dip back into something, they have a little session again. So I do it all the time. You know, I do self-hypnosis, but I also check in with some of the people that were on my hypno course. If I feel I'm starting to dip again, and I do dip, I do go downhill. It's not always easy. So I don't deepen trance when I'm doing working with someone with depression. We don't use the word down. One of the techniques that we do use is we can reframe how they feel about their depression. So we can call it a period of deep reflection rather than a low mood or a depressed state. We get people to see it as a reflective state. We do use things like disassociation and self-integrated disassociation. So some of you will have seen my session around boundaries and SID, self-integrated disassociation. We can work with you to repair that wall and repair that negativity. Another technique that's used is pseudo-orientation in time. So projecting someone into the future, but not too far into the future, and it's done in baby steps. So we don't project someone too far into the future because when someone's got depression, they can't see that far ahead. So it might be that pseudo-orientation time is tomorrow. So we're looking at tomorrow, and tomorrow you're going to put your clothes on, you're going to put some lipstick on, or if you're a man, you might have a shave. And that might be the goal for the next bit of therapy for someone with depression. We will always recommend that they access resources and that they access credible resources. And one of the other things we can do is, if someone's open to using metaphors, we can describe things to get them to feel as if they are feeling something differently. So if they say they're going through a thick fog, we can change that to walking through light cloud. Okay, any other questions around depression? Any before I move on and do the actual therapy itself? One of the things that I want to make you all aware of, and this has nothing to do with depression, is next week I am doing something a little bit different. So I am doing a charity event online with a yoga instructor. Get me? Right. The yoga instructor will do half an hour's worth of yoga, and I'm going to follow up with a 15-minute meditation session. It will be donations, so those that want to participate, donations to the Samaritans. What I wanted to do is just extend the offer on Mental Health Awareness Week and support people like the Samaritans. So we're doing a yoga and meditation session. Donations are anything from £1 upwards. If you want to participate and join, keep an eye on the page, because there'll be loads of stuff coming out about that. I'm just talking to the yoga instructor at the moment, and I might have a go myself. I haven't done it since I was pregnant. Like, how old are you, Elena?
10.
Well, nearly 11 years ago. Okay, so I'm going to have a go as well. Right, so I am going to go into the therapy now. So those of you that are listening, I need to do the safety instructions. So only listen to this recording if it's safe to do so. Don't listen to it if you are driving or operating machinery. And make sure that you are comfortable. Okay. And before we get started, yes, Samaritans is a brilliant charity. You're going to have a go at the yoga next week then, Nicola. I just thought I just wanted to do something a bit different. I'm no yoga instructor, but I thought doing that alongside my meditation might be a nice thing. So, right, okay. Because it is a low mood tape, I'm going to ask you to concentrate, lift your head up, feet firmly on the ground, and your head held high. And I'd like you to concentrate on a spot. It can be anywhere in the room that you are in, but just continue to concentrate. Just concentrate on that spot while keeping your head held high. Okay, and as you concentrate on that spot, I'd like you just to breathe in for 3, and out for 5. And I'd like you to know that any distractions that you can hear, distractions within the rooms that you're in, or distractions within the room that I'm in, such as water flowing or people banging, and distractions outside the room, such as street traffic, I'd like you to know that they're not important. And all you need to do is listen to the sound of my voice. The sound of my voice that will help you go into a nice, pleasant, lifted state of relaxation. A lifted state of relaxation with your head held high. And as you enjoy this feeling of relaxation, your mind is peaceful and calm, and you can allow any positive suggestions and empowering thoughts to become part of your world, part of your reality, allowing them to exercise greater and greater positive influence over the way you feel. And any suggestions and thoughts and any ideas may be of benefit for you now, or maybe tomorrow, or even the day after. But each and every small step you take, you can start to enjoy the feelings of well-being. Feelings of well-being that may well be around just slowly and gently getting out of bed. Slowly or gently taking some steps towards self-care. Experiencing the same feelings each and every day. No matter where you are, you will feel physically stronger and better. You'll start to feel ever so slightly more alert, slightly more energetic, and enjoy a great sense of energy, knowing those around you love you and care for you and are just there. There for whenever you need them to be. And you'll feel a positive sense of strength. And your mind may be slightly calmer, slightly clearer. And maybe tomorrow you will wake up feeling tranquil with hope. And as the days go by, tomorrow or maybe the day after, there will be more hope for you. And you'll be able to concentrate just slightly, making small steps towards your better mental health. And each and every day, your confidence will grow. Think about something that you may want to do. Something that maybe you haven't done in a long time. As you start to feel a cloud, and as you look down to earth and all that grows comes about, you can realise that you can stand on the earth's foundation and feel the growth. Things need to grow, so you can look upwards towards the sky. The sky will change from day to day, and as the cloud lifts, you start to feel the energy feel lighter. Hour to hour, minute to minute. It is deep, then comforting, and blue. And the sun shines brightly. Sometimes it's hazy, but that's just the clouds drifting through. And on the days that those dark clouds are heavy with storm, heavy and angry with swollen rain, I'm sure you know that growth occurs when there is rain. And even though it's not a black, heavy storm cloud, they are more important And there come a time when these clouds just release the rain, release the anger, let the rain pour down and fall to earth, feeding and fertilizing, realizing that its potential for new growth. And maybe you find that you can relate to this through your tears, that you want to release those tears and allow the rain to fall and the heavy clouds to become lighter and lighter, because crying is a natural reaction, natural to all of us. And it allows the anger and the darkness and the helplessness to just fade away. And of course, it's natural that after the rain, there comes some sunshine. And after the sunshine, there's blue sky. And after the rain comes some healthy growth. And I'd like you to just stay there for a few seconds with your mind thinking about the light energy, thinking about how you want to progress with this, thinking about those people who love you, who are around you, that care for you no matter what. Just take a few seconds now just to think about that while holding your head up high. Okay, so thank you for that. Those of you that have listened to lots of hypno scripts before will know that it's slightly different, the one that I've just done. It was very much about keeping your head held high, keeping looking out and focusing and doing things in small steps. And when someone's suffering from low mood or depression, that is really as far as we can take it. So just to round up, don't push people with depression. I've already talked about some of the signs, and just keep an eye out for your friends and family, and keep an eye out next week for my yoga stroke meditation session that is for charity. And thank you all for listening this evening on a really difficult topic. Tomorrow's just a general Q&A, and I am going to do one of my favourite scripts. I've got about 3 or 4 and I haven't chosen yet. So it's just a general mental health Q&A and check-in tomorrow. Fire your questions about everything from teeth grinding to stress to smoking to eating to snoring to all the things we've covered this week and more. Biting nails. Yeah, okay. And I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.